Imagine this. February 1957. A cold, gray afternoon in northeast Philadelphia. You're walking along a quiet road. No traffic, no witnesses, just bare trees and a cardboard box in the weeds. You get closer. You lift the flap. Inside, a little boy, naked, bruised, fresh haircut, still damp skin, a thin, worn blanket around his small body. Skull smashed, tiny body covered in old scars and fresh wounds. Someone bathed him. Someone beat him to death. Same hands. For decades, nobody knew his name. No one claimed him. No missing child report matched him. He was just the boy in the box. America's unknown child. And even now that we finally know his name, Joseph Augustus Zarelli, the question remains, who killed him? February 1957. Fox Chase, on the edge of Philadelphia. This empty lot off Susquehanna Road was basically a dumping ground. Old appliances, busted furniture, anything people wanted to forget. At some point that bitter winter, someone added one more thing to that pile: a child. We still don't know exactly when he died. The cold worked like a freezer, preserving his body just enough to confuse the timeline. Some experts said 3 days. Others said up to 2 weeks. What we do know, the first person who saw him chose silence. A young man, maybe a college student, was out there checking his animal traps, illegal traps. He peeked inside the box, saw the little boy, and saw his own future. Fines, trouble, questions from police. So he walked away, left the boy exactly where he found him. But the image wouldn't leave him. By the next day, his conscience finally caught up. He told his priest, then he went to the police. That's how America first met its unknown child. When officers arrived, they found the boy lying on his back in the cardboard bassinet box, his tiny arms carefully folded across his stomach, light brown hair cut brutally short, almost to the scalp. Little clumps still stuck to his skin, proof the haircut happened right before or right after he died. And he was naked, no clothes, no identification. Someone had gone to the trouble of changing his appearance. The question is, why? The closer investigators looked, the worse it got. Bruises on his forehead, like big hands gripped his small head, holding him still while they hacked his hair off. Head, torso, legs. A map of old and fresh bruises from a beating so savage, it likely killed him. Scars told their own story. L-shaped on his chin. One on his left ankle, perhaps from an IV or surgery. 3 surgical scars on his torso. A long one along the left chest. A roundish one on his elbow. Another scar on his genitals. Circumcised in an era when it wasn't routine. Someone took him to doctors, signed forms, allowed procedures. At some point, someone cared enough to treat him. And yet, here he was, naked, broken, discarded. His fingernails and toenails neatly clipped. Right palm and soles of his feet wrinkled, like he'd been soaking in water shortly before death. A bath or a punishment held down in the tub? Left eye, signs of medical drops for an infection. This wasn't a child hidden from the world forever. Hospitals had seen him. Records should have existed. Police sent fingerprints and scar details to hundreds of hospitals. Nothing matched. The box itself once held a J.C. Penney baby bassinet. 12 sold locally, 11 traced. The 12th? Unaccounted for. Cash only. No names, no receipts, no usable prints on the cardboard. The blanket, cheap flannel, common everywhere, but this one worn thin, mended carefully with a sewing machine in several places. Someone patched it, then cut it in half, both halves wrapped around him, a small piece missing, like cut out and kept. A rag? A memento? To hide evidence? Less than 20 feet away, down a narrow trail through the brush, a man's cap. Blue corduroy newsboy style, buckled leather strap at the back, custom order. Traced to a small Philadelphia hat shop. Only about a dozen made. The owner remembered the buyer, late 20s or early 30s, light-colored hair, work clothes, no accent. In her words, he looked a lot like the boy in the box. Same features, same coloring. Father? Or just another shadow in a case full of ghosts? Detectives never gave up. They checked over 400 registered foster kids, making sure none had vanished without a trace. They scoured thousands of pediatric records for surgical scars that matched. They plastered his reconstructed face on posters across the city. Tips flooded in. Several callers swore he was Terry Spees. His father, Charles, a handyman and roofer, had disappeared from a boarding house in Camden, New Jersey, just 2 days before the body was found. By March 1957, this was the hottest lead in America. Headlines screamed it. Police in a dozen states went on alert. The boy's supposed mother came to the morgue. She hadn't seen her son in a year. They pulled back the sheet. She stared at the small, lifeless face and said no, this wasn't Terry. Here's the twist. The child seen with Charles might not have been her biological son anyway, so clearing the body didn't fully clear Charles. For a moment, it felt solved. Then, Charles and Terry turned up alive and well, just half an hour outside Philadelphia. The theory collapsed overnight. And that became the pattern. A missing neighbor boy, a suspicious man on a bus, a kidnapped child from out of state, a farming family with a matching blanket, a young Hungarian refugee. Hope rose, hope died. Again and again, nothing stuck. But 2 theories, 2 dark stories, refused to die. Theory 1, the foster home. A medical examiner, haunted by the boy, chased a psychic's tip in the early 60s. She described a house near the dump site. He found it. Blankets on the line, same type, cut in half for kids' cots. A small pond nearby, cold water that could wrinkle skin like the boy's hands and feet. Theory, he was the secret son of the stepdaughter, killed. Accident or rage, to hide shame. Family dumped him. They had foster kids, all accounted for. Daughter claimed her own boy died in a freak accident. Mechanical horse. Story checked out. Dead end. But some still swear it's the key. Theory 2, M and the basement nightmare. In 2002, after America's Most Wanted, a woman, M, told her psychiatrist her mother bought a boy named Jonathan in 1955, abused him for years in a basement fridge box. One night, he vomited baked beans in the tub. Mother snapped, beat him to death. They drove, dumped him in a box. Chilling matches, baked beans in autopsy stomach, wrinkled skin from water. Witness saw woman plus child at trunk, backs turned to hide plate, exactly as M described, but he saw boy, not girl. Police searched basement, no evidence. Neighbors remembered nothing. Unprovable, but undeniable chills. These shadows linger, even after 2022. Joseph Augustus Zarelli had a name, a family, but his killer? Still unknown. The case stays open, tips still wanted. Justice waits. DNA, a name, and no justice. After the investigation stalled, the boy was buried in a cheap pine coffin in a pauper's grave. The detectives, deeply affected, pooled their own money for a small headstone. It read, "Heavenly Father, bless this unknown boy." Back then, DNA was science fiction. Evidence wasn't preserved for the future, but decades later, technology caught up. Investigators exhumed the body twice and extracted DNA from his teeth and bones. Mitochondrial DNA traced the maternal line. Then forensic genealogists built a distant family tree, branch by branch. In December 2022, 65 years after he was found, the Philadelphia police announced his name: Joseph Augustus Zarelli, born January 13th, 1953, a 4-year-old from West Philadelphia. His parents, both deceased. Siblings, some living, most silent, asking for privacy. Joseph finally had a name, but not justice. As of 2026, his murder remains an active, open homicide. Police have suspicions, they have theories, but no arrests, no charges, no public names. Today, Joseph rests at Ivy Hill Cemetery. A new headstone bears his name and photo. Visitors leave stuffed animals, flowers, handwritten notes, quiet tributes to a boy who never grew up. The question endures: who killed him, and why did no one ever report him missing? In January 2026, on what would have been his 73rd birthday, the Vidocq Society launched a nationwide push to identify other unknown child victims, keeping hope alive for cases like Joseph's. This is why Joseph's story haunts you. Cared for, then discarded like trash. No missing report. Family secrets? Foster home shame? M's rage-filled basement? Or something darker? Your theory. Comments below.